Hey guys, Anthony, 4x4 Diesel. Just thought it was a good idea to do another video. Can't share too much information apparently. One quick request I would like to say for this video. If you can, I'd like to hear from you guys, that's everyone, what you would like to see. What sort of content do you like the most? Obviously everyone's different. Some people like everything, some people like that but not that. I don't want to hear about what you don't like, I just want to hear about what you do like and what you want to see more of and any specific information. So if you haven't already, subscribe and hit me up in the comment with sort of things you'd like to see. Now we can't guarantee we can do all of it or how fast we can do it, but we can work towards it if we know what you would like. Today we're just doing a 150k service on a 150 PRADO. So this is relevant to all the 150 PRADOs all the way through from 2009 through to 2019. Even though the engine's different, the rest of the vehicle's the same. We've got the vehicle up draining the oil, and while that's draining, that's when we go through and have a bit of a check over everything. This one basically has never been off-road, so it's got the ARB bull bar happening. It's just got some BFG tyres, and it's probably going to get a lift, and it's probably going to start heading off-road soon. So we're just going to have a look around all the usual things. I mean, the suspension, obviously 150,000 Ks is long overdue, and I'll just touch on that again. The safety triangle, tyres, brakes and shockers. You can see your tyre wear, you can see your brake pads, you can't see the wear in the shockers, it's internal, right? And they sort of fade away wear slowly. So suspension specialists recommend you replace those struts and shockers every 80,000 Ks, and that's on road use. So, but obviously we're not going to go and change them every 20,000 or every trip or once a year. So you've got to use half decent quality gear, try and get a few years out of it, but that's what you should be looking at. So while I'm talking, I'm looking around, I'm going to show you anything specific that I notice that we need to keep an eye on. Now, see that steering rack there? This is what I talk about with the slow power steering oil leaks. Now, see that tiny little bit of, it's not a leak, it's a sweat there. Obviously that rack, and steering racks do this. This is what you've got to understand. As a DIY or inexperienced, you don't know these things. When you see it all the time, lots of different manufacturers over the years, over the decades, you get to learn, I suppose, what's normal and what's not. Now, a little bit of a sweat like that, even worse than that, not a problem, but be aware, just keep an eye on your power steering oil level. If it drops down, probably where it's going is a little bit out into each boot of the steering rack, right? There's obviously seals in the steering rack, etc. So also your power steering pump, that vane pump that's mounted on the mechanical pump, mounted on the front of the engine. Can't really see too well from here, but it's, it's up in there. Anyway, as I was going to say, the passenger side is normally worse. We're talking we're talking PRADOs now, 2000 and whatever, 120s, 150s, 2006 in Australia through to current. Not much is going to change, right? We're not changing racks or reporting racks for little things like that. It's going to need to look worse than that and have a bit of a drip on it. Now, it doesn't mean it's all going that way. Some could be going out the pump. So between the rack and the pump, you're going to have quite an expensive repair if you want to replace for small things like that. Now, if you look at this front strut, excuse me, if you look at this front strut, you can see it's got a small leak. Let's go back to the other one and compare. See, this one's fairly dry to the spring seat. There's a little bit of oil up the top there. That's up behind the cover, that's why it's clean and black. It's not a lot of oil, but there's a bit more on this one. You've got the oil at the top and you've got that sort of sweat all the way down to the spring. It's still not a leak, we see them wet all the way to the bottom with drips off the bottom. That's a leak. These obviously they are due. If you see them like that, they're probably as bad as it gets before they get really bad with the genuine original Toyota stuff. So the top ball joint, it's just a bit of grease coming out, but it's never been touched, it's never been taken off, it's just how it is, nothing to worry about, okay? Now, roadworthy testers, they may pick and say it's leaking or whatever. It's not, it's just grease, it's just the way it is, heat and movement and whatever, it comes out. So there's actually nothing wrong with that. So I want to be clear, I don't want you wasting money. You can check your upper control arm bushes, check for movement. We don't see problems with lower ball joints or anything like that. The problems we see are bushes. All right, now these ones, we're just going to have a look, the usual, trying to look through that gap there to see if there's any cracks and stuff. These ones, I can tell you, tiny little cracks starting, but they look fine. that's probably because the suspension hasn't been changed and it hasn't been off-road. And it's only done 150,000 k's, so it's basically almost run in this vehicle. It's not the old days where 100,000 k's it was time to get rid of it. These vehicles are good for hundreds of thousands of k's. So you can have a look at the turbo. Sometimes there's a bit of oil on the bottom. Now see where that orange line of sealant is? That's where the oil leaks out sometimes. I'm not going to tell you to replace a turbo because there's a little bit of external oil. Don't worry about that. If it's working fine, feel free to clean it. You might even want to run a bit of sealant on there, but I wouldn't even worry about it. Just keep it on it. I see vehicles come in for the first time at 50 or 80,000 k's and they might have that bit of oil, and at 200,000 k's it's still exactly the same. So we're not replacing all turbos for no good reason either. We're not into wastage and doing things they need before they need to be done. Not much to see. Obviously you need to check your brake pads. Okay, in this case they would have been recently replaced because they're fairly like new. I haven't looked up the history on this one. 150, generally the fronts last about 120, 130, you know, depending on your driving, how hard you want to be on the brakes. You know my driving, look ahead, get your foot off, you know, get your foot off the accelerator. Okay, so what we do, we'll just give that a bit of a clean and a lube. We haven't done the drive shaft on this yet. Just move to the back to see if there's anything going on down here. Have a look at the rear brakes. Same deal, they're fairly well like new. No need to take the wheels off. Then you don't have to double check and torque your wheel nuts. Obviously check your tyres. If you've got the tyre rotation thing, we don't do it automatically. It's if you've got a lot of excessive wear at the front on the edges that you can notice, rotate, and probably every 20,000 k's is fine. And this is where it's got some people thinking, oh, aren't you meant to do it every service? And some people say, well, I do it every 5. You're just creating work for yourself. It doesn't matter if the tyres go 5, 5, 5, 5, 10, 10, 10, 10. All you got to work out is how long your tyre's going to last. Generally, people get 80 to 100,000 k's out of these. Some get more, some get less, which means every 20,000 k's are going to get rotated evenly and spend about 40,000 k's at each end minimum. So don't create extra work for yourself. If it's all happy and it looks good and the tyre wear's good, you can leave them where they are. Save yourself some money and some effort, you know, whichever one it is, whether it's you doing it or whether you're taking it somewhere. So this information is to help people, even if you're taking your vehicle somewhere, paying someone to work on it. There's no point paying for things that don't need to be done. Now these rear shockers, same story. There's a small amount of sort of oil there, but it's not what we call a leak, right? Sometimes they're slightly overfilled and they need to push a little bit out from the start, and it just stays like that from the start, you know? Unless they get washed and degreased. Same deal with that one. See that little bit of oil there at the top? That's not a leak, that's fine. Right, no leaks at the axle seals, that's good. No leaks at pinions or anything like that. We don't usually see that. Once they get higher in Ks, 300,000-400,000 maybe. And if you get into bog holes and all the mud and dirt rubs up and goes in there, then that's where you know, the mud equals money thing. That fuel filter up there gets changed every 20,000. You know about that, check the other videos. Just when I've got some hands free, I'm going to do some other checks and stuff like that, but I just sort of quickly run through it again for you. You've probably seen it before, but sometimes there's new information in a video that wasn't in the last one. We like to check for the play in all the wheels, the wheel bearings, particularly these front ones, and the way to check the wheel bearing play is top to bottom. So just grab it, make sure there's no play in it, give it a wobble, and you can also do it at the front here, and that'll check for play. The other thing that you get is sometimes play in these inner rack ends. So you've got your tyre rod in here at the outside, again, normal, that bit of grease, whatever, sweat, oil, whatever, 150,000 k's of heat and whatever, over the last 7 years is all that is. A good clean degrease and everything, that Kenco stuff I use, and that'll be as good as new. So if you're going for a roadworthy and you've got stuff like this, there's nothing wrong with it. Just clean it up before you go. That way, you know, you're not going to get, they're not going to sort of tell you need things that you don't. Now, what else was I going to say? Yeah, so the inner rack ends are in behind the boot. That's the uni joint that basically screws into the end of the rack. Sometimes they get a bit of play in those. I haven't checked these ones yet. I can't do it with, my hands are full. So, usual stuff, checking the bull bar. We mentioned it in the after trip check video. These bolts on all the bull bars, worth checking before, during and after trips. Quite often we see those come loose. Mine don't come loose, so I think if you do them up tight without wrecking them, you won't have any issues on a trip. But I do see other people's come loose quite a lot, and they say that they've checked them before the trip and whatever as well, so I don't know what the variables are. One really important thing when you change your oil, this vehicle hasn't had the injectors done yet, so as it gets higher in Ks, it's more and more important to check that oil pickup. Now I'll just take a quick look anyway and just go, yep, have a look. Hard for you to see, whatever. I can't really see it yet either. I'm just trying to show you. So you can see the mesh there. We've shown you before in other videos. I don't know what this one looks like, but my point is, until the injectors are done, as time goes by, it gets more and more important to check that pickup. And if you don't understand what I'm checking and why, keep searching the channel. Search blocked oil pickup, check an oil pickup, oil starvation. It's all caused by the injector seats leaking and the carbonisation. There's heaps of information on this channel. There's hundreds of videos. Get yourself educated and search the channel. Get in there and watch them. You'll just do yourself a favour, learn about the vehicle. It's only going to help you. Anyway, for this video, that'll do. We're going to get on with a 150k service. They're pretty well the underneath checks we're going to do. The main replacement items are the oil filter, the cabin filter, the air filter, cleaning the MAF sensor, lubricating the drive shaft, we'll call that grease, right? I don't worry too much about lubricating these bump stops, okay? It just gets messy. On these vehicles, we don't really have issues. You're always best not to hold your steering on hard on full lock anyway. So I'm more of a turn, and once it hits the stop, take it back, 20 degrees or whatever you like, turn the wheel. Don't hold it on hard lock. That's not, that's not the best way to, you can, but you'll look after your pump and rack better if you just back it off a little bit. Don't keep that pressure on the full lock. Some people are really hold it hard on full lock, and that's where, when you're moving, your suspension moves up and down, and that if that's dry, they're going to grind against each other, right? So if you've got that issue and you need to be a full locker and keep everything under pressure, then you might need a little bit of grease on those, but generally on these vehicles you don't. And the only other part is the timing belt's due. We'll talk about the transfer pump just briefly as well, actually. So we don't see a lot of issues with the transfer pumps over the years, and all the older models didn't have that transfer pump part of the service to replace it. So we leave it up to the customer's discretion where they want to do it. It's quite expensive. I would guess, if I had to guess at parts that we're going to fail first, I would guess your alternator will fail before your transfer pump. So I'd rather get in here and give you a new alternator, which would be a waste of money also, than a transfer pump. So, and we don't want to do that. So most people decide on not doing that transfer pump. Of course it can let you down, but the thing is, it's not going to stop the vehicle. It's just transfers fuel from one to the other. So you can put fuel in it and still get going again. And if you're in the Outback, you can drain the rear tank and pour it straight in the filler, and it'll go mainly into the front tank. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is you can do it that way if you like. That's what Toyota recommends by the book. But you can save some money and not change things that rarely, very rarely cause issues. Now there's going to be someone that's had an issue, 1 or 2 people out of 10 or 20 or 30,000, but there's a lot more that are issues with alternators. So I hope you get my drift. Alternator, starter motor, or whatever else, right? We can pick some other things. The other thing that's due is the timing belt, and for us, timing belt kit, idler tensioner, water pump, drive belt and bearings, and we sell a kit for that. So for the guys that want to do their own, they can contact me and buy that kit. Obviously you need to be in Australia for all your parts purchases. Give me a ring, 0490 261 013 for parts purchases during business hours, Melbourne time, school hours, during school hours. And we've got a video that shows you how to do the whole job. So if you want to save some money and make sure it's done right, you can get the water pump, timing belt, idler tensioner, cam seal, drive belt, and all the bearings. We call it the big front engine job because it gets everything under the engine done and out of the way sort of thing, done and dusted, all reliable. Every bearing, I suppose, except the alternator. So just getting in there, trying to have a look at that oil pickup. Sometimes you get some little specks of silicone or bits of fluff or rag from when the engine was built or whatever the case may be. You've got to be able to determine the difference with those. If it looks like little specks of black carbon, it's time for your injectors to come out right away. So guys, I hope that's added some more information, some stuff I haven't covered on other videos, and reiterated, reinforced things we've already mentioned. We've got to get on with it. All right, have a nice day. See ya.